Zelenskyy is currently in Washington. He's been meeting with Biden, the defense secretary, and defense contractors over the last couple of days. He has been asking the U.S. for money. So the United States has not approved any more aid for Ukraine. That aid runs out at the end of the year. So we've got like 2 weeks before the aid completely runs out. And the GOP is blocking any sort of aid to Ukraine until the GOP can get funding for the border. This is what Zelenskyy had to say. He started off with this yesterday. He says, I began my visit to the USA by meeting with Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Charles Brown at the U.S. National Defense University. He says, we discussed global security challenges, frontline developments, and further U.S.-Ukraine defense cooperation. He says in this tweet, I'm grateful to the U.S. for the implementation of our agreements, particularly those on strengthening our air defense, as well as to Secretary Austin and General Brown for their personal leadership. So that was yesterday. He was meeting with the Defense Department. Zelenskyy always wearing his green outfit. Then today he says in this tweet, I met with leaders of U.S. defense companies and expressed my gratitude to every American worker who manufactures weapons that help us safeguard our people and defend our land. I appreciated all American companies that attended last week's U.S.-Ukraine Defense Industry Conference. I also proposed establishing a European defense hub in Ukraine. We're prepared to make all essential decisions, cut red tape, and allocate orders. We are ready to produce more ammunition and military vehicles, but we require support. It is important to develop joint production of artillery ammo, air defense systems, and artillery and missile systems. Together, we can create more jobs, generate more strength, and provide more opportunities for both our nations. Very smart of him, I got to say, to meet with the defense companies, because he's saying to them, "Look, we could do jobs. We could set up hubs in Ukraine. There's money to be made. There's weapons to be built, and we could do this together." And he knows that those defense contractors are going to be going to their reps in Congress, and they're going to say, remember all that money we gave you for your campaign? Do you want more of that? Do you want to win your next election? Well, if you do, then you're going to need to give over some money to Ukraine, because that money just comes back flooding to us, and jobs and money, and we want all of that. So we need this this money laundering thing to keep going. I do have to play you this. Donald Trump Jr. put this out, and it's just funny, but this is he says, a really honest, this is Donald Trump Jr. speaking, so bear this in mind. He's got a video of Zelenskyy giving a speech, and he says, wow, a really honest and powerful pitch from Zelenskyy on why America should send Ukraine more money. Here it is.
Thank you, thank you. As I told General Austin, I have come here for a re-up of cash. I brought the coke, I brought the hookers, I brought the kickbacks. Now, where is my money? I need it to buy another yacht. Fund the war to fight against democracy. Delete the yacht part. I have dirt on all Washington politicians, and I will release unless I get my money. Do you want your sons and daughters sent to the war?
Okay, obviously he didn't say all of that, but that is what a lot of people are hearing. I personally feel very bad for Ukraine. I feel bad for Zelenskyy. I do think that Zelenskyy, from all the reports we've seen, is he really is genuinely trying to do what's best for you, for what he was told to do for Ukraine. He's a U.S. puppet, but I do think that I think that the U.S. really let him down. The West really let him down. We should have never made promises to this man or this country. We should have never said we were going to be with this war until the very end, only to turn our back not very long after, be a laughing stock to the world. The world just doesn't trust the United States. And look, I'm not advocating for us to continue on with Ukraine. I don't think we should. I don't think we should have ever made these promises. But the problem now is that we did make these promises, and now we're backtracking on these promises, and the world is watching. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for the United States at all. This is what Speaker of the House Johnson had to say after meeting with President Zelenskyy. Here's his statement on that, on whether or not to give money to Ukraine and why they're not giving money to Ukraine right now.
Thank you all for being here. Just had a good meeting with President Zelenskyy. I reiterated to him that we stand with him and against Putin's brutal invasion. The American people stand for freedom, and they're on the right side of this fight. I have asked the White House since the day that I was handed the gavel as Speaker for clarity. We need a clear articulation of the strategy to allow Ukraine to win. And thus far, their responses have been insufficient. They have not provided us the clarity and the detail that we have requested over and over since literally 24 hours after I was handed the gavel as Speaker of the House. And so what the Biden administration seems to be asking for is billions of additional dollars with no appropriate oversight, no clear strategy to win, and none of the answers that I think the American people are owed. I have also made very clear from day one that our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe, and this is because of the policies of this White House and this administration. We had 12,000 illegal crossings on one day last week alone, on Wednesday. We have almost now 280 known terrorists that have been apprehended at the border. None of this counts the gotaways. If you add the numbers up, it's almost 7 million people who have been encountered at the border just since President Biden took office, and at least 2 million gotaways. This is twice the population of my state of Louisiana. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death for Americans age 18 to 49 in this country. Fentanyl poisoning, because it's allowed over the border. We have human trafficking and all the other terrible things. In the last 3 months, October, November, December alone, we've had more illegal crossings at the border than in any entire year during the Obama administration. The American people see this, they feel it acutely, they see all the terrible societal ills that come from this, and it must be addressed. So I've made this very clear, again, from the very beginning, when I was handed the gavel. We needed clarity on what we're doing in Ukraine and how we'll have proper oversight of the spending of precious taxpayer dollars of the American citizens, and we needed a transformative change at the border. Thus far, we've gotten neither. The Senate has been MIA on this. The House passed H.R. 2 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago. It's been sitting and collecting dust on Chuck Schumer's desk. I have told him personally, I've told the National Security Advisor, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, that these are our conditions because these are the conditions of the American people. And we are resolute on that. It is not the House's issue right now. The issue is with the White House and the Senate. And I implore them to do their job because the time is urgent and we do want to do the right thing here. With that,
So essentially what he's saying is that they want money for the border, they want security before they will give money to Ukraine, but they will give money to Ukraine, so that's one of the takeaways from that. They will give money to Ukraine, they will give money to Israel, but so as long as they get money also for the border. So less money for Americans on programs and things that we need, infrastructure that we need. It's all going to go towards more security, more guns, more weapons, right? More war. There's no doubt that we need border security. And Chuck Schumer having that bill set on his desk for a while, having Democrats say that, well, you know, hemming and hawing about border security is not going to go well for long. You've got even Democrats like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, on camera with Fox News today saying the White House isn't doing anything about the border. This is a crisis. This is urgent. We need something. So you've got Democrats who are now in northern cities saying we got a problem and something's got to give, because many of the people, when they interview them at the border, where are you headed? They'll say New York. So it's become a big problem for even Democrats. They're now starting to get really loud about it. So I do think there's probably going to be movement on that. But the problem is they're continuing to say, yeah, we'll give money. Hopefully, though, Republicans, with what Speaker Johnson said as well, which is, you know, what is the clear plan for Ukraine? We'll give them money, but we got to have a plan on how they're going to win this thing. That could be code for it. They don't have a plan to win this thing. And so maybe there's not going to be ever any money that they actually do approve to give to Ukraine. So it's a little bit muddy. And it really, what's really stupid about this whole thing is they continue to bundle all of these different things together. Oh, border security with Ukraine, with Israel. None of this should be together. Separate all of it and get stuff done, Congress. They never get anything done. They're the most useless body of government that we have. Here's Biden. He is frustrated by the whole thing. He is saying that Russia is essentially laughing at us, that they celebrated when the GOP blocked funding. This is what he has to say.
You know, we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And we need to fully appreciate how it's wrong, how this is being viewed around the world and being used by Russia. And Russian loyalists in Moscow celebrated when Republicans voted to block Ukraine aid last week. The host of a Kremlin-run show literally said, and I quote, "Well done, Republicans. That's good for us," end of quote. Let me say that again. This host of a Kremlin-run show said, "Well done, Republicans. That's good for us." That's a Russian speaking. If you're being celebrated by Russian propagandists, it might be time to rethink what you're doing. History will judge harshly those who turn their back on freedom's cause.
History isn't going to judge harshly those who've turned their back on freedom's cause. This wasn't a freedom cause to begin with. The Ukrainians were just as free before, and nothing has changed for the average Ukrainian, whether they're under a Russian-backed Ukrainian corrupt government or a U.S.-backed Ukrainian corrupt government. Nothing changes for the average Ukrainian. Absolutely nothing changes for them. Now, what changes for them is they've got an entire generation of men that have been wiped out from them because of this war, and with nothing to show for it. The land was lost that they would have lost, that they already lost a decade ago in a civil war anyway, land that wasn't even under their control or land that was already annexed by Russia. So nothing is actually lost for Ukraine except for an entire generation of people. What else is lost for Ukraine, however, and what Biden is right on, is the way the rest of the world looks at the United States. The rest of the world will not trust the United States. The United States is a laughingstock. The world isn't looking at us and thinking, wow, you guys are turning your back on freedom and we're judging you harshly. No, they're going to judge us harshly for continually baiting people into wars, countries into wars, massacring people and leaving them with nothing but loss. That's all we do. That's all we've been doing. We haven't had a military win in my entire lifetime. The last time we could think of the U.S. did a good thing was World War II. That wasn't even in my father's lifetime. So not only in my lifetime, not my father's lifetime, you have to go all the way back to my grandparents' lifetime before we see an actual military win with the United States. That is what's made us the laughingstock. That is what's made these various countries looking at us, and we're a mockery. We're a mockery now because how quickly we turned our back on Ukraine so that we could pivot towards Israel, a country that clearly isn't taking our advice, doesn't care about what the United States has to say. It's just using us for money and for military and power, and yet doesn't listen to and doesn't take any of our advice. That's very clear between Netanyahu and Biden. And so this is going to be a turning point for the world and how the world looks at the United States. What's happened now with Israel, with Ukraine, with Afghanistan, with Iraq, with Libya, I mean, you name it, we're just looked at as a failure of a country that went around with military adventurism to make a lot of money and just ultimately left every place we've touched in ruin. And that is not the country we were told that America was, the country we've been raised to believe America is about. We've been raised to believe that we're the heroes, that we're spreading democracy, we're saving people from dictatorships and bad, horrible outcomes. And really, we're the ones creating it. We're the ones leaving them in ruin, leaving them worse off, their lives much worse off. Every single time. At what point are we going to say we need to sever the military-industrial complex from our government? That we need to wean them off the military-industrial complex's tit? It's time. Time to go. That we are losing our face and our place in the world as a country that people can respect and look up to. When are we going to finally say enough is enough? Maybe now. Hopefully it's now. But not going to hold my breath on that one. There's always something new. And right now, that new shiny thing is Israel until it's Taiwan or Iran. Who knows what the next one will be.